The second concept on private property involves this vacant tract that's here just east of Weathered and the existing apartment complex, so they would be combined to create a new mixed-use development. And you can see, remember I mentioned to you that that new roadway system would be really important. As you can see, what this does, if you put the new roadway through there, is create a totally new kind of street. If you're familiar with Brick Road, you know how we have, you know, on-street parking and wider sidewalks, and we're looking for street trees and all that. That is going to be pretty instrumental to the success of this development, which we feel then could be not duplicated, but many of the same concepts carried forward to the east and maybe even a little bit to the north. There's also, as you can see, a small kind of urban park that would make sense in that particular area. Oh, and I should point out, this is a rendering of what that building might look like from this intersection looking this direction. Okay? So that's mixed use. You see some like sidewalk dining possibly out here next to the neighborhood gateway with better streetscape, all of that. On the New Orleans apartment site, the concept is for about 48 townhomes based upon the success of this property over here, just to the west. Those are actually duplexes, but they're in a townhome style. So the idea would be to replace the existing apartments with townhomes served by sort of an internal loop street, to take advantage of the creek area back here, to make it kind of an open space or a trail linkage with some area also up to the north here that would sort of, like I said, complete the loop and offer a little bit of exposure to the lakes back here that are very hidden and one of those natural assets that we're just not, you know, taking advantage of. And that would be another opportunity for a neighborhood gateway. The last of the concepts is involving the Encore substation site, which is here. Again, it's got some creek adjacency, which we should probably capitalize on. And the idea was to take that existing facility. It's not going to go away, but maybe make it look better from the outside, so it presents a different kind of a front to it. And we thought, you know, some reconstructed screening walls, perhaps incorporating some of the motif of a circuit board, you know, into the wall and perhaps even into the widened sidewalk and some special pavers out here. There is a dart stop out in front of this, so that would, you know, that would be a nice area for someone waiting to catch the bus to utilize also. And it's possible that, you know, we might be able to create another trail link over here. So there's a lot of possibilities, and again, remember that these are concepts. We're not saying it has to be done exactly this way, but we're trying to inspire some creative thinking and some new investment. I wanted to mention to you also that Dallas is doing a study. It's not quite as broad in scale as ours, but their study area really mirrors ours. And they're looking at 3 possible projects. One at this northwest corner of Coit and Spring Valley, where Sunnyland Furniture is. One on the southeast corner, the Fiesta Food Mart is right here. Most likely the Fiesta is not going to be doing a whole lot different. They're very successful, but the area next to them could probably be used in a better manner. And then the third project would be some townhomes, and they would actually be right south of the redeveloped New Orleans apartment site. So the thought is these creeks form a really nice kind of an enclave boundary, and then if we could get the ball rolling on the north side, Dallas could be doing something similar on the south side. It could really change the character of that area down there. So that would be getting rid of old apartments on the south side as well. Okay. In terms of what we need to do to make this happen, we took our tasks and set them up into a series of categories. And And the consultant tells us that in every community that she works in or that they work in, they really end up coming right up with this very same list of categories. And then within those categories, there are 50 different strategies that are grouped. And then within the grouping, there is a designation of what could be the near-term first 1 or 2 years action items. And that's all reflected in your report. Okay? Now, one of the near-term action items is review existing codes and ordinances for consistency with the goal of corridor redevelopment. That's one of the dozen, I think there's 16, 18, 12 to 24-month actions that we can consider. That's one of them, all right? And that's kind of what brings us to the need to move on to the next step. So in the total spectrum of actions, the study basically addresses these first two. The comp plan identified the corridor as an area for specific study and action. Then the West Spring Valley Reinvestment Study addressed the vision, that framework that you saw, the catalyst projects, and funding strategies, which are contained within the implementation action. So now we are at this point right here, where we need to develop the zoning regulations and design guidelines and change any policies that we may need to in order to move it on and basically be ready when things are ready to start happening. So the moratorium will allow us to do our code work, essentially. Again, you're familiar with the study area. The purpose of the moratorium would be to give us time to review our existing ordinances to determine whether they're adequate to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizenry. That's what we have to demonstrate under state law in order to take the moratorium action. And those are some of the elements that would help to contribute to public health, safety, and welfare. I'm going to kind of run through these a little quickly because they're all going to be in the public hearing again anyway. Here are some of the findings. Current conditions don't promote the health, safety, and welfare, and if we continue to operate under the same regulations that we currently have, it's not going to improve anything. There has been growth in the corridor and in the community as a whole since we looked at the ordinances that apply down there the last time. The city should take a look at where the commercial development is appropriate in the corridor, and we do have certain objectives that we want to achieve as reflected in the study that we just completed. This would be a commercial moratorium only. Thank you. It's not going to apply to residential development. The state law defines commercial property and property development, and again, I'll go through that. I'm going to save a couple minutes for questions. I'll go through that in more detail in the public hearing. During the moratorium, we will not be accepting applications for permits for subdivisions, site plans, construction, that includes building permit on real property for commercial uses. Okay? That's just reiterating that it won't apply to residential uses. If the project is already underway, they've already applied for their permit, by the time the moratorium goes into effect, they operate under the previous ordinances and can proceed. And according to state law, we have to include a process for a waiver in our ordinance, and that is in there. Here's a schedule. We published notice of the hearing on the 25th of November tonight, and there's a minimum gap between the publication of the notice and the hearing, and we meet that. Tonight, Planning Commission hearing, council hearing, and they will be doing the first reading of the caption of the ordinance. Then 4 business days elapsed between the publication of the notice and when the moratorium the temporary moratorium goes into effect. So those 4 business days are Monday through Thursday of this week. Moratorium goes into effect on Friday. And then the council adopts the ordinance after second reading next Monday. There's a really quick time period. I know this seems like a really compressed process because it is. That's what the law requires. You have to complete it within 12 days or you can't do it. So that's why we're moving fairly quickly. Existing ordinances and regulations will be studied during the moratorium. That's why we're taking the time out, if you want to think of it that way, so that we can look with our ordinances and regulations and see if they are going to be adequate to accomplish what we want to accomplish, as identified in the study. We'll be drafting new ordinances and regulations if we find that they will not. And then conducting public hearings on the new ordinances and any potential rezonings, and then concluding with adopting the new and revised ordinance. The initial moratorium will be for a 90-day period of time. You saw in the staff report, that there are opportunities to extend that, but only once. Okay? That's it. What can I do in terms of answering questions for you?
Roll back to the dated dates of, yeah. Is the publication notice of public hearing, is that the specific date it was published?
Yes.
Thank you for your check. It was published on the 26th.
Let me see. Let me make sure that I have got the date.
Talking about the Dallas Morning News?
Mm-hmm. Double check.
Friday the 26th. Look for it on the 25th, and I did
Okay.
look for it the following day, it was there, so that's why I bring this up, so.
All right, let me do a count and make sure that if that is correct, that it still gives us the appropriate number of days. So I'll do a count between now and the time we convene in the other room. It could be that I just have my date wrong.
Well, this notice that came out and said they were going to file it or publish it on the 25th, I believe somewhere in here. And as I said, I looked for it and didn't find it. So.
Okay, I will work on that between now and when we actually convene in the other room. Thank you for explaining that out.
Am I to bring that up again, or will you
I'll-
explain it?
Either way, I'll explain it, correct or incorrect, I'll explain it. And if I don't, feel free to bring it up.
Okay, I have to ask a secondary question, I guess. If it is the 26th, would, my wife played some modern math on me. She said, okay, there's a full day Friday, a full day Saturday, a full day Sunday, and a full day today because of the hearing tonight. But that's modern math as far as I'm concerned. I think we're really talking about legal term here. What's the day, and what kind of date today?
Yeah, and this calendar is very challenging, so I will
Yeah.
confirm that with you.
I even went back and looked at the wording in the code, and it talks about 4 days previous to, that hearing can be held 4 days previous to the publishing. It doesn't talk about the other direction, talk about back in it.
Okay,
So-
we'll iron that out before.
All right, thanks very much.
No, I appreciate it.